Nadia Karam arrived 11 minutes early, which was unusual for her. 6 years of emergency room nursing had trained her body to run late, to eat standing up, to sleep in 20-minute windows between chaos. But tonight she had planned. She had left the hospital with enough time to go home, change, eat something small, and arrive at Saffron Restaurant looking like a person who had a life outside of rubber gloves and vital signs. Then Mrs. Okafor came in at 5:40 with chest pain that turned out to be nothing serious but could not be assumed to be nothing serious, and the shift ran over, and Nadia sat in the hospital parking lot at 7:15 in her blue scrubs with a coffee stain on the left cuff and 3 almonds in her hand and a blind date in 45 minutes. She ate the almonds. She checked her lipstick in the rearview mirror. She told herself this was not a big deal. It was a little bit of a big deal. His name was Tariq. A mutual friend named Hessa had arranged the meeting. Hessa believed in fate and matchmaking with equal enthusiasm and had described Tariq using exactly 3 words: stable, kind, employed. Nadia had laughed at the 3rd word. She had also written all 3 down. She texted him from the car. Running a few minutes late, so sorry. He texted back almost immediately. No worries, I am parked outside. She noted the exclamation point. It seemed hopeful. She walked across the parking lot in her scrubs and her white sneakers, carrying 6 years of weariness like something sewn into her shoulders, scanning the lot for him and standing outside, waiting, the way someone waits when they want to make a good first impression. She found him and sitting in a silver car. He looked at her through the windshield. He looked at the scrubs. He looked at her face. He started the engine. She stood in the parking lot and watched the silver car reverse slowly, carefully, as though nothing unusual was happening, as though a woman was not standing 10 feet away watching him leave. He turned out of the lot onto the main road. His taillights disappeared. The parking lot was quiet. Nadia stood there for a moment that felt longer than it was. Then she walked to the curb at the edge of the lot, the low concrete one that separated the restaurant entrance from the parking spaces, and she sat down. She did not go inside. She did not get back in her car. She sat on the curb in her blue scrubs on a Tuesday evening outside a restaurant called Saffron and she cried. Not dramatically. Nurses do not cry dramatically. They cry the way they do everything else, efficiently, completely, and then they stop. It took about 90 seconds. A woman walking into the restaurant paused and asked if she was all right. Nadia said she was fine. The woman went inside. The night air smelled like rain that had not arrived yet. She was thinking about calling Hessa when she heard footsteps coming fast around the corner from the side street, the sound of someone who had been walking quickly for several minutes and was slightly out of breath. She looked up. A man came around the corner in a light blue shirt that was untucked on the left side. He was holding his car keys in one hand and his phone in the other, and he was scanning the restaurant entrance with the focused look of someone who was late and knew it and felt genuinely bad about it. He almost walked past her. Then he stopped. He looked at the woman sitting on the curb in blue scrubs. He looked at the restaurant entrance. He looked back at her. "Are you Nadia?" he said. She looked up at him. She looked at the untucked shirt. She looked at the empty space in the parking lot where the silver car had been. "You are late," she said. "I know." He ran one hand through his hair. "I parallel parked 3 times and failed twice. I am genuinely sorry." He paused. He looked at her face more carefully. "Are you sitting here because of me?" "No," she said. "And also a little bit yes. But mostly no." He was quiet for a second. Then he sat down on the curb next to her. Not across from her, not standing above her asking questions from a height. He sat down on the concrete curb in his good shirt, and he set his keys on his knee, and he waited. "There was another man," Nadia said. "He was in a silver car. He saw me walking across the parking lot in my scrubs and he drove away." The man next to her said nothing. "That was our date," she said. "He was the one who texted me the exclamation point." A long moment passed. "I want to say something," he said, "but I am trying to pick the right thing." "Take your time." "Okay." He looked at the parking lot. "The man in the silver car is going to think about this night for a long time. Not tonight, maybe not this year. But eventually he is going to understand exactly what he did in that parking lot, and it is going to bother him in the way that only truly stupid decisions bother you. He paused. That is the first thing. She waited. The second thing, he said, is that I am sitting on a curb in my best shirt and I would like to go inside and have dinner with you if you are still willing, but I also understand completely if you want to go home, because that was a cruel thing to happen to a person on a Tuesday night. Nadia looked at him for a long moment. Your shirt is untucked, she said. I know. On the left side. He tucked it in without looking down. Better. Somewhat. His name was Omar. Not Tariq. She discovered this 30 seconds later when he introduced himself properly, and she stared at him, and he explained that Hessa had apparently arranged 2 separate blind dates at the same restaurant on the same night, a piece of information that made Nadia close her eyes briefly in a way that was either exhaustion or something close to laughter. She set up 2 dates, Nadia said. It appears so. At the same restaurant. At the same restaurant. On the same night. Yes. She stood up from the curb. She straightened her scrubs. She looked at the restaurant entrance, then back at Omar, who was also standing now, still holding his car keys, watching her with the careful patience of someone who understood that the next 30 seconds belonged entirely to her. I have not eaten since noon, she said. I have not eaten since noon either. I am wearing hospital scrubs. You look like someone who just saved a life, he said, and he said it simply, without the performance of a compliment, the way you state a fact about weather or distance. She looked at him for another moment. Then she walked toward the restaurant entrance, and he followed, and he held the door open, and they went inside. The restaurant was warm and lit with the kind of soft orange light that makes everyone look slightly better than they feel. They were seated at a table near the window. Nadia ordered water and then lamb and then more water. Omar ordered the same lamb, which she noted was either a coincidence or a very transparent attempt to have something in common, and she asked him which one it was. Both, he said. I genuinely like lamb and I also noticed you ordered it. Points for honesty, she said. I am trying to collect them. She told him about her shift the way she told everything, directly, without softening the difficult parts, because she had learned long ago that people who could not handle the difficult parts of her job were not going to last long in her life. She told him about Mrs. Okafor's chest pain at 5:40. She told him about the 12-year-old boy who came in at 6 in the morning with an asthma attack so severe his lips had gone slightly blue, and the way the color came back to his face slowly, and how she had stood at the supply cart afterward and allowed herself exactly one full breath of relief before the next patient. She told him about the old grandfather in bed 7 who kept asking for his wife even though his wife had been gone for 11 years, asking with complete sincerity every time, as though grief could not be stored permanently in memory, only felt fresh over and over. She told him about the light that came through the east-facing ER windows at 7 in the morning, how it hit the floor in a long rectangle and moved slowly across the tile while the night shift handed everything over to the morning shift, and how she still noticed it every single time, no matter how tired she was. Omar listened. He did not check his phone. He did not wait for her to finish so he could speak. He listened the way people listen when they are genuinely interested, and at the end he said, "You still notice the light?" She looked at him. She did not answer. She picked up her water glass. He told her he was a 4th-grade teacher. He said it the way someone says a true thing, without apology, without the slight defensiveness she had seen in men who felt they needed to justify a career that did not come with a large salary or an impressive title. He taught math and reading and, he said, the extremely important skill of how to lose a board game without crying, which was harder to teach than long division. She smiled. It surprised her slightly, the smile. She asked him why he had agreed to a blind date. It was a question she always asked, when she remembered to ask it, because the answer told her more than most other answers. He said, "Hessa told me you were an ER nurse. I thought, she probably has no patience for people who waste her time." That seemed like a good sign. Nadia put her fork down. "What?" he said. "Nothing," she said. She picked her fork back up. He asked her how long she had been a nurse. 6 years, she said. He asked her if she had always wanted to do it. She thought about the question honestly, which she did not always do. "No," she said. "I wanted to be a marine biologist when I was 8. Then I was 11 and my grandmother had a stroke and I watched the nurses in her ward and I thought, those are the people who are actually here. Not visiting. Actually here. She looked out the window at the parking lot, at the empty space where the silver car had been. I decided I wanted to be the person who is actually here. Omar was quiet for a moment. That is a remarkable reason to choose a career, he said. It is a very normal reason, she said. Those are usually the same thing, he said. They finished dinner. They ordered tea, which neither of them had planned to do, which meant neither of them was ready to leave yet, which was information they both had and did not directly address. She asked him about his students. He told her about a girl named Priya who had decided, at age 9, that fractions were a personal insult directed specifically at her, and the 2 months it had taken to convince her otherwise. He told it with the kind of detail that meant he had thought about Priya's fraction problem long after school hours, had cared about it in the quiet way that good teachers care, which is without audience. Nadia thought, this man has never left a parking lot in his life. She did not say this. At 9:44 in the evening, she looked at the time on her phone and felt the specific guilt of a person who has to be somewhere at 6 a.m. and has not yet slept. She set the phone face down on the table. I have to be at the hospital at 6, she said. I have 22 9-year-olds at 8, he said. We are both going to be tired tomorrow. Yes, he said. It was worth it. She looked at him. For me, he clarified. I can only speak for myself. It was worth it, she said. He paid for dinner. She argued about this for a moment and then let it go, which was unlike her, but the evening had already been unlike her in several ways. He walked her to her car. The parking lot was quieter now, most of the dinner crowd gone. The rain that had been threatening all evening had still not arrived, and the air smelled clean and waiting. At her car door he did not ask for a second date in a way that required an immediate answer. He did not perform confidence or lean against the car or say something designed to be remembered. He put his hands in his pockets and he said, I think you need sleep. But if you want to do this again sometime, I would like that. In scrubs or not in scrubs. Truly either way. She unlocked her car. She opened the door. She stood with one hand on the roof and looked at him. I will think about it, she said. She drove home. She sat in her apartment parking lot for a few minutes before going inside, which was something she did sometimes when she needed the space between outside and home. She thought about the silver car and the taillights disappearing onto the main road. She thought about the curb. She thought about a man sitting down beside her on a concrete curb in a good shirt without being asked. She texted Hessa. He sat on the curb with me. Hessa replied in 40 seconds. I know. He called me from the street before going in. He asked if you had left. I told him to go check the front of the restaurant, Nadia read the message twice. She set her phone on the passenger seat. She sat in the car for another minute, in the quiet, in the smell of rain that was finally beginning, very gently, to arrive. Then she went inside. The second date was 3 weeks later, on a Saturday, because that was the first day both of them had off at the same time. She was not in scrubs. He tucked his shirt in properly. They walked along the riverfront and talked for 4 hours and ate from a food cart and talked for 2 more hours and she laughed 3 times with the full, unguarded laugh that she did not give to most people. On the walk back to the car she told him a small truth, the kind she usually saved for much later, if ever. She told him that in 6 years of nursing she had learned to read the moment when a person decided to stay in a room versus leave it. She said most people left without realizing they were leaving. They backed toward the door slowly, kindly, with good excuses. She said, "You sat down." He said, "Where else would I go?" She did not answer that question. She had already filed it somewhere she would keep for a long time. They married 2 years later in a garden in the early evening, with the light doing exactly what evening light does in late summer, coming in low and warm and making everyone look like a version of themselves they hoped was real. Hessa was there, of course. She cried before the ceremony even started, which surprised no one. At the reception, an uncle who had not heard the full story asked Nadia how they had met. She held her glass and told it the way she told all true things, directly, without softening the parts that were hard to say. She said, "The first man saw my scrubs and drove away. Omar sat down on the curb with me and ruined a perfectly good shirt. She paused. I decided that was the important information.